Good morning, campers, and welcome to Radio Camp Half-Blood. I'm B.
And I'm Zach.
And this week, we read Percy Jackson, Sea of Monsters, Chapter 5, I Get a New Cabin Mate.
Our matey, yes. Wait,
Different type of cabin.
Boat. Oh, so Tyson isn't his first mate? So this week we read Chapter 5, I Get a New Cabin Mate, and what did you think of this chapter, B?
So, he sure does get a new cabin mate, that's literal. You never know with chapter titles. Rick likes to mess with us.
I mean, this is like, out of all of them, this is the most grounded chapter title because it's just like, I get a new cabin mate. It's nothing humorous. It's just more of like a mystery, like, who is this new cabin mate and why should we be concerned about this? Of, I get a new cabin mate.
Last episode, I made some predictions because if you know how Percy Jackson, and more specifically Camp Half-Blood works, then you know that your cabin mate has to be your sibling, basically, because it's like whichever god claims you is what cabin you're in.
Yeah, that's kind of like why Percy Jackson is always by himself, because he doesn't have any other siblings.
Because he's technically not supposed to be born, because of the whole agreement with the big three where they're not supposed to have kids, but I guess Poseidon didn't really give a crap about that.
And Zeus.
That's true. And Zeus. Poseidon and Zeus, right.
The only person that's kept his end of the bargain has been Hades, and he doesn't even have a cabin, really.
It's sort of like a tricky thing, because you're like, oh, I guess it could be like a half-sibling. I think I even mentioned this last episode where I was like, oh, I guess it just needs to be a child of Poseidon. It doesn't necessarily need to be a child of Poseidon and Percy's mom, because it like that doesn't matter. You're still a demigod either way. And I did say that I didn't think it was like a full sibling, because I feel like Percy's mom would have just mentioned that.
But you did, if you like really paid attention to the beginning. Sally Jackson does take care of Tyson.
That's true. She does.
I was like about to say it, like, I know who it is. But like you're like feeling, you're like, the way you were talking about, like, oh, obviously they have to take care of this person and they have to do all these certain steps.
I mean, she
just
does take care of him eventually, but like I don't know how young Tyson's supposed to be because it's complicated.
Tyson's the same age. Well, I mean, I'm going to use air quotes. Tyson is supposed to be the same age as Percy, but I don't know, like, do like Cyclops ages like dog years, or is it like...
Yeah, exactly, because they say that he's a young Cyclops, so I don't know how that works exactly.
So really he's like 65.
Yeah, it's like really hard to tell. Either way, he is a half-sibling. That's the plot twist. Dun dun dun. I mean, that's like the twist that you really find out at the very end of this chapter.
I mean, like, to really think about it, it's like the most obvious conclusion because he's the new character and Tyson has to go somewhere.
It's funny that I didn't guess that, because I did guess that Tyson was a Cyclops, and I did guess that it's like somehow involved with Poseidon, but I don't know enough about mythology to like make that full connection. And then,
but you did. But the funny thing is, you made that connection before about you knew something that there's Cyclopses with Poseidon.
Yeah, but I didn't know if it was a positive or negative connection or like how that worked out, because there is also like the whole thing with Cyclopses are like sort of illegitimate children in the sense that they're like quote unquote like deformed and like they don't turn out right or whatever, which is incredibly ableist and terrible. But like the way that they're treated is different, so I like didn't really know how that related exactly.
It's actually really interesting. I was reading a book kind of about mythology and kind of like where they get the ideas of all the monsters. Mm-hmm. One of the most practical theories about Cyclopses is actually back in the olden days of Greece, they would find bones, and there was like, I guess at that time they were finding a lot of woolly mammoths like bones, and because there's all the trunk is cartilage, you just have like a gigantic hole in the middle of the skull. So the first thing you would think about that, it would be like an eye socket or something, which is really cool.
Yeah, I heard that actually. It's similar to how like the myth of giants, I think, came from people finding dinosaur bones and being like, oh, I guess they were giants.
Yes, because imagine, it's only recently, and like when I mean by recently, I mean like, I think it was historically recently, especially I think Thomas Jefferson was one of the first people to actually make the processes of like categorizing and actually preserving archaeological finds, because he would find a bunch of them on his plantation.
Yeah, problematic.
Yeah, he would find a lot of bones and stuff on his plantation, so he was, in one way he helped the world, in another way he didn't quite help the world, but different time.
Complicated dude. Anyway, yeah, so Cyclopses are like these weird second-class citizens, sort of. We encounter more of like this weird attitude toward them as we enter Camp Half-Blood and we meet some of the new characters that are introduced in this book. The new... What is he exactly? Like, camp director?
So he's more like the activities director, whereas he comes up with the ideas rather than what Dionysus is, the person who just manages the camp. He's kind of like a lower-end manager. I guess the activities director, what they do is like archery lessons. They teach them how to like rock climb on volcanoes, and they teach them like probably underwater basket weaving or something really silly that, it's just activities to train demigods.
So Tantalus is like this weird guy. He's like a prisoner, sort of. It's really strange that he has like this sort of position of power, but he's also a prisoner to Dionysus. Sort
of. No. He's actually like what's the best way to put it? He's kind of like the released prisoner, kind of like on parole. But like the weird thing is like the way they have their conversations are like they're like super buddy.
Yeah, it's really strange. I think Tantalus is like kind of a villain. He's very bad in a lot of ways. And we don't really find out what he did. I like how sassy he is in this chapter. He gets very sassy with Mr. Tantalus. In this chapter, he says some very backhandy kind of things to him. "You're that spirit from the Fields of Punishment," I said. "The one who stands in the lake with the fruit tree hanging over you, but you can't eat or drink." Tantalus sneered at me. "A real scholar, aren't you, boy?" "You must have done something really horrible when you were alive," I said, mildly impressed. "What was it?" Tantalus's eyes narrowed. Behind him, the satyrs were shaking their heads vigorously, trying to warn me. "I'll be watching you, Percy Jackson," Tantalus said. "I don't want any problems at my camp." "Your camp has problems already, ... sir." "Oh, go sit down, Johnson."
Percy Jackson's a really big smart butt. But I mean, I guess that makes sense because you're going into, even in the beginning of this chapter, it's like going home, but it's not quite right. Because the way they describe it is like, it's like battlefield mode. There's just like patches of grass that have just been burnt out. They've made like barricades, and like one of the ranges has become like an armory. And it's like one of those things that's like returning home again, but the house has like a fresh coat of paint that doesn't look correct. Like it's really like ugly and disgusting.
"Ever come home and found your room messed up, like some helpful person, hi mom, has tried to clean it, and suddenly you can't find anything, and even if nothing is missing, you get that creepy feeling like somebody's been looking through your private stuff and dusting everything with lemon furniture polish? That's kind of the way I felt seeing Camp Half-Blood again. On the surface, things didn't look all that different. You get the idea."
So when I think of this and I'm looking at how Rick Riordan's writing this, that's actually kind of how a kid would perceive like if something's kind of wrong. Especially like we're going to use the idea of, come on, everybody, your mom or your parents, sometimes they'll clean up your room and you have like an organized mess. Like it's completely like messy, but like you have like an organization.
You know
to
where
it
all
almost.
your stuff is. Yeah, my mom totally does this too.
Oh, this happens to me all the time. Like I'll put papers or like I'll have like a stack of books or CDs, and all of a sudden they just disappear, and they're put in the place where it's like I know where they were originally. Like there's like an organization to my messiness. But it's like with here, it's just the idea of having like, it's almost like it's clean, but you still feel dirty at the same time, almost.
Yeah, just like the way that everything's sort of reorganized at Camp Half-Blood, because Chiron was fired. Basically, we find out the sort of circumstances of his termination, so to speak.
Yes, because as they're going around, they actually meet Chiron, and he is totally like jamming out to like Frank Sinatra on a boombox, and he's like just packing up his little saddlebags, which is really funny. It's a nice twist.
Yeah, but
I'm just imagining like how Chiron would like, he has like little saddlebags, but is it like, I feel like they're still like a little bindles.
Oh yeah, like he's a little like a 1940s hobo or something.
Yeah, he's got like his little hobo bindles. Percy Jackson, I'm gonna go ride the Percy Jackson, I'm gonna go ride the rails. You got any canned beans?
No, Percy Jackson would ride the whales.
We're gonna ride the whales.
We should make a Percy Jackson joke book, and that would be one of them. That would be one of the jokes.
What does a 1940s demigod hobo, what does he ride? If he's the son up beside, he'd ride the whales.
He rides the whales, yeah.
But it's like really interesting because we see Chiron totally out of his element because he's kind of like a sad sack almost, and how he's just packing up.
Yeah, his tone is very strange because he's sort of like very resigned and accepting of the fact that he has to leave. And then there's also like this implication that he might die because his
one wish from the gods was, I wish to be immortal so I can teach every Greek hero how to fight and be a good person. But if he's not in the camp, the threat of existing or not existing is something that might actually happen, which I don't know about you, B, but that is terrifying. The idea of you're just not going to exist anymore.
Yeah, I mean, getting fired sucks as it is, but the fact that getting fired implies that you're just not gonna be alive anymore, yeah, it's pretty bad.
It seems like a catch-22 a little bit here. It's like you get to like work at the summer camp that you like to work at, but if you leave, you'll die. Which makes no sense because in Lightning Thief, he's Mr. Brunner. So is he technically teaching Percy? Actually, technically, yeah, I guess, yes, he's teaching Percy in the beginning of the book. So yes, technically he's teaching him. So I guess that's not a continuity thing.
I love this interaction when they see him again because, of course, they have Tyson with them, and Tyson's like, "Pony, I want to pet the pony."
Yes, and that's going to be a big characterization of good old Tyson, is the idea of him characterizing things in the wrong ways.
It reminded me a lot of how, like, Boo in Monsters, Inc. calls Sully Kitty, and she's like, "Kitty!"
Kitty!
It's like a monster, but you just want to, like, pet it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, we would all pet monsters if we could.
I guess we would, yeah. I don't know if I would pet a pony person, though. I would feel a little, would feel like I'm being offensive. Like, oh, I guess a person's attached to this pony.
Well, you'd have to ask them permission first. It's not like petting a dog. You don't just like straight up pet a dog. You like give eye contact to the owner, in this case, the person with the pony body.
The person with the pony body.
And they like give you like a wink or something. Like it's like, yeah, it's okay. You can like pet me. Which seems also really weird. That's like some like stranger danger almost.
Exactly. Yeah, I just love this line. Tyson was still staring at Chiron in amazement. He whimpered like he wanted to pat Chiron's flank, but was afraid to come closer. "Pony?" Chiron sniffed. "My dear young Cyclops, I am a centaur." I burst out laughing at that line.
It's really funny because it's just the idea of Tyson is this lovable, I don't want to use the word idiot, but like he's this lovable goof. It's like he doesn't know better.
Yeah, exactly. He's bumbling and sweet, and he sees kind of like the nice things in the world, like a little bit naively, I guess.
Which is fine, because to a person, to like the layman, the first thing you'd probably think of when you see a centaur is Pony Man.
Pony Man. Yeah, I would think Pony Man as well.
I wonder, actually, are there different breeds of centaurs where like they're like half pony? Like Danny DeVito, would he be like pony sized?
Yeah, Danny DeVito would be like Shetland pony.
Or like a micro horse.
I mean, I would be a Shetland pony if I was a centaur because, I mean, I'm way too small to be a regular pony.
Hey, horses are majestic. When I grew up on a farm in New Mexico, we actually had a horse ranch, so I would ride horses all day long.
What were their names? I want to know the ponies' names.
It was Rounder, was our main horse.
Aw.
He was a good boy.
That's so cute.
And I learned both how to use a saddle and not use a saddle. Like, it was almost like some, like, Black Beauty, like, weirdo.
Yeah, this sounds a little bit like a Disney Channel original movie, not gonna lie.
Oh, I can say, like, the entire plot of, like, a horse movie. Girl has a hard time, like, fitting in and adjusting into the world. There's a bad horse that doesn't want to be tamed by nobody. All of a sudden, for some reason, they bond. And they form this everlasting friendship where, you know, they want to race, but the dad's like, no, because the mom's usually dead in the situation.
The mom is usually dead.
Yeah, the mom is either dead and the dad's either, like, inept or, like, an alcoholic for some weird reason.
Or both. Mm-hmm.
Or both. And, like, the horse and the girl have this strong bond. I'm going to use, actually, let's use in this case, because it's Percy Jackson, it's a centaur.
She loves the centaur.
So we're making actually our new version, so it's like horsing around.
Horsing around. The Chiron story.
I think that's from BoJack Horseman, but we're going to call it our Disney movie, Horsing Around. And the centaur and the little girl, like, form this strong bond.
Oh my god.
So the owner of the centaur is like, no, this is my horse. This is my pony man.
My pony, I own him. But you can't really own a person, so it's a very complicated moral quandary when you think about it. You only own half of the person.
We're getting into, like, the real, like, themes of, like, horsing around B. He's like, how do you truly own a horseman?
If you love something, let it go. If it never comes back, then it wasn't yours to begin with.
Of course, there's going to be the part of the thing where this little girl is, like, she has to let the horse go free. And the centaur, like, looks back. It's like, I don't like you anymore. You smell. And the horse, like, runs away crying. But the girl's also crying because her heart's broken. Her heart's broken in the wrong place, B.
What's the word for like a sequel that takes place in between the events of a book? Because it would be like, this is what Chiron does when he leaves the camp, is actually he befriends a little girl, and it's like the story of a horse person and his person.
Yes. So what happens afterwards is the girl's like totally like distraught, and she doesn't want to do anything. She's failing at school, and she's like really moody because she's like almost a preteen. And what happens is the dad takes her aside and shows her old pictures of her mom with another centaur.
With another centaur. Mm-hmm.
And then they realize I like how I'm describing this whole movie. This is the movie. So if you make this, you have to give me royalties.
Yeah, you're really storyboarding this.
Yeah, I'm really storyboarding this. So then she realizes the errors of her ways. So she breaks into the trailer of the centaur enclosure, because they're going to go off to the big show.
Oh my god.
And she like breaks them out of the trailer, and they like ride to the big show, and they win the race. And she wins the acceptance of her dad, and her dad like gets off the sauce, and they all live happily ever after. But for some reason, the dad also found love in like the young. Actually, this is going to be, he actually fell in love with the man half of the centaur.
Oh, so the dad falls in love with the man, and the girl falls in love with the horse.
Yes.
And they're a family.
Yeah, they're a family. Horsing around.
I, for one, am very proud of Chiron and his new kindly husband.
So if anyone wants to make the poster to this, we'd really love this. As like so, Horsing Around, a Disney Channel original.
Horsing around, back in the saddle. This is terrible. We're terrible.
So stepping away from Horsing Around, Chiron is really sad.
Very different from our Disney Channel imagining for him. He's actually pretty much sentenced to death because he can't be immortal if he's not a Camp Half-Blood. So we find out a little bit about the circumstances of like the tree and like how it was poisoned, and like Chiron didn't really know how to fix it, so that's why he was blamed for it, which is the tenuous reason to fire someone.
But it's like the idea of people are just big idiots because they don't realize, hey, look, this is Kronos' doing, because this is a poison that was found in the deep depths of Tartarus itself, and the only people that would know about that is Kronos and maybe Luke. It's the Harry Potter argument of, Voldemort's back, but no one's going to believe Harry Potter that Voldemort's back. It's impossible. It's unfathomable.
Yeah, I just realized that there's definitely like sort of like Kronos is Voldemort and Luke is like Malfoy, I guess, like sort of doing the bidding of this guy, or I don't know. I don't know enough about Harry Potter, but there is definitely like a super Harry Potter moment where Percy's like, oh, it's clearly Kronos, and then Chiron goes, do not evoke the Titan Lord's name, Percy, especially not here, not now. It's like, that's a Voldemort thing, completely, 100%.
What they're trying to get at, I guess, both in Harry Potter and in Percy Jackson, is that names have power. Same as with if you evoke the name of Zeus, like in the first book. Remember, there was always like thunder rolling. Actually,
right,
in this
exactly.
chapter, when Chiron tells Annabeth that she needs to swear on the river Styx, there's like a faint rumble after she swears. It's like the idea of words have power. That's why I know this for a fact, and this is going to be more Harry Potter useless knowledge that I know. One of the cut things in Deathly Hallows was that Voldemort put a curse on Harry. That's how they were able to find them so easily, was because every time Harry spoke Voldemort's name, they'd have like a signal. And because Harry's not afraid to speak Voldemort's name, they were always easy to find.
In Young Frankenstein, how every time they say Frau Blucher, all the horses go, ah.
Well, yeah, it's the idea of having, like, words have power. Again, that's, like, a really big theme as well in, like, Fae stories, as well as having, like, in Name of the Wind, like, names, like, there's the true meaning of names, and then there's just, having the, like, a version of a name. It's like saying Bloody Mary 3 times in a mirror.
Yeah, don't do that stuff. Yeah, and so it's funny because Chiron here reminds me a lot more of the Chiron from the Percy Jackson movie, like the first movie, because in this case he's telling them not to go on any kind of magical quest. He's like pleading them to just stay at Camp Half-Blood and for Annabeth to look over Percy.
But then he also has like the Hagrid moment where he says, well, there's one thing we could do. Oh, no, I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, oh, I should not have said that. Yeah, exactly. He's just like, oh, well, there might be one secret special thing that could reverse the poison that was lost centuries ago. But anyway, don't find it. Like, of course they're gonna find it. And if we're remembering a few chapters ago when we have the whole incident in the taxi with the Grey Sisters, they mention a location. So I think that location probably is where the thing is, or at least the beginning of their journey to where the thing is.
So what the Grey Sisters really did was they just were so good at telling the future, they accidentally gave them the information before it was time to give the information. They came too early.
I mean, that's exactly what they indicate in that chapter, right? Is they're like, oh, no, he didn't even ask about it yet. Like, oh, you have all this information, because the whole idea of the Grey Sisters is they share this one eye, so, like, they can't fully see the future, but they have this, like, vast wisdom if they look in the right direction, I guess.
So it's a lot like Back to the Future, when Doc Brown wants to know nothing about the future, even though Marty McFly is, like, desperately trying to give him, like, the letter, or he's trying to tell him, like, what's going to happen to him, that he's going to be shot. But even, like, time itself is not letting him do it, such as thunder and even Doc Brown ripping up the letter. But in the end, he decides, what the hell?
Yeah, so it's like kind of like a fluke that they find out about that location earlier rather than later, I think. Again, we don't really know what this magical thing could be. And then, like, Chiron's making some sort of plan to, like, go and find his brethren.
In the Everglades?
Yeah, just galloping in the fields, because they might have some sort of secret special thing that he has forgotten over the many years of working at Camp Half-Blood. He may have forgotten this thing that'll heal this creepy, spooky poison that came from the depths of the underworld, poisoned Talia's tree.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, like, things that happen with this chapter as well, like the idea of Chiron. Like, he has to leave, so we have, like, that moment where, for some reason, he's still conveniently in the camp when they're supposed to be leaving.
Yeah, because it was kind of already news that he was leaving, so it's interesting that they catch him literally, like, at the last minute. But it's good, because they have a lot to talk about.
It's almost like as if it's destiny or something.
Yeah, though Percy does not get the chance to talk about his whole premonition thing about Grover and, like, the thing that happened in his dream in the beginning of the book.
Okay, just imagine, like, that conversation going, so Chiron, I had this dream that my best friend was in a wedding dress, and then Chiron would be like, whoa, you shouldn't, that's some private dreams you got there.
He wasn't in a wedding dress, he was in a wedding shop.
That's how Percy Jackson would perceive it, is how I talk. He would just be like, there was, like, Grover, wedding dress, wedding shop. Percy, I don't have to explain to you your feelings for your friend.
Yeah, it's like, all right, if you want to marry Grover, then by all means, buddy.
Dude, just go for it. I'm not complaining.
We support you. They, like, encounter Chiron. He really pleads them to not go on this quest mission, whatever. It's very obvious they're going to go on this quest.
Obviously, they have to, because this book isn't over yet. Just imagine this book's just really short, and they're like, oh, okay. And then the book ends.
Yeah, they're like, all right, fine. It's sort of like, do you know how they just released that game? Or, like, they released a beta version of it a while ago, but they released, like, the full version of that game, We Happy Few.
Oh, I love We Happy Few, even though there's some parts about it I don't like about it.
There's some parts about it. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I've heard the criticisms. But basically the idea is, like, it's all these people who, it's like something terrible happened, and in order to forget about it, they take
happy pills.
Take the happy pills that make them forget about, like, live in a la la land where everything is good. And if you, in the very beginning, as the main character, choose to just take the happy pill and forget and not, like, sort of be woke, so to speak, to the stuff around you, then the game just rolls the credits.
Yeah, there's, like, a part in Far Cry 4 where you're supposed to bring your mom's ashes to her resting place in, like, her original country. And you go there and it's run by, like, a tyrannical leader. Like, he's insane. And the beginning of it is, like, you're sitting in, like, a table. And he's like, 1 second, like, he goes away and you just hear someone screaming and stuff. And your first inclination is you got to escape this room. But if you wait, like, 4 minutes for him to finish his phone call, he comes back and he's like, oh, yeah, totally. Like, you can leave your mom's ashes on the statue over here. And he takes you on, like, a little helicopter ride and you have, like, a total, like, bro moment. And then you leave and then the game's over.
It's hilarious.
Like, it's such a funny premise, like, when they do stuff like that. Like, the game's over.
When it just, like, cuts to credits. That's basically what would happen if they just were like, all right, I guess I'll listen to you. Stuff still would happen because, regardless, Camp Half-Blood is threatened by the quote-unquote Sea of Monsters, the eponymous Sea of Monsters. So either way, if they stay at Camp Half-Blood, the tree is just going to weaken and weaken until it dies, and then there won't be any protection whatsoever surrounding Camp Half-Blood and everything.
So pretty much you'd be like a regular, like, place at that point.
I guess, but they'd be overrun by monsters.
But then why can't they just have training grounds on Mount Olympus?
I guess. Does Mount Olympus also have, like, sort of magical protections on it? I guess it does.
I mean, that is where like Zeus and all the other pantheon of gods live. I would imagine if you're like right next to like Zeus, like in high five distance, I don't think monsters are going to mess with you because they all have to get into like the little elevator to get to the top.
Yeah, it's true. It's very hard for all of the minotaurs to fit in the elevator.
I just imagine they're there and they're playing like really awful like elevator music.
Do,
Do
do,
do
do,
do
do,
do
do.
do do do.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
remember thinking of like the Wii.
You're doing the
like,
Mario
menu
song.
music. Do 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 do. I can't even do it right now, but it's like that. Obviously, there's different things that we could like cheat with this, but I guess maybe because it's just like they don't want to have their kids right next to where they live.
Well, they don't want to like destroy all of Camp Half-Blood because I don't think that all of the campers would fit in Olympus. I don't think it functions the same way as Camp Half-Blood, but I don't really know enough about like the lore.
No, but it's just like their safe space when it comes to like not being attacked by monsters and like still being a part of the mortal world.
There's also like the implication that monsters are more prevalent and like emboldened in some way or another that they don't really make clear. It's like something to the effect of like, I mean, like the whole thing with the Laestrygonians being like farther south than they're supposed to be. Like there's something else going on with the monsters that isn't just like a lack of a barrier. They're like, there's something else going on.
It's kind of like the idea of having like a bunch of like oysters in a pot. Like it's just feeding time for these monsters if the barrier is weakening. And obviously if you have like the concentration.
Yeah, I guess. So they're all coming from all over the place.
Yeah, they're all, okay, all the campers are like concentrated to one area. It's like, it's just pretty much feeding time.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
That plus it doesn't help that Percy Jackson's there. And obviously he is the biggest in the bad. It's almost like bragging rights if you kill him. So what happens next is they go for dinner. And this is where we have the, I'm not Harry Potter, but Harry Potter moment of they're giving the announcements for this year, such as the the chariot races have been reinstated this year. You know, the very deadly chariot races.
That'll kill them for sure.
Yes, horribly. It's killed 4, maimed 20.
Yeah.
Other things is, you know, we get to meet our new camp director, Tantalus.
Yeah, the spooky aforementioned prisoner dude who's like still in an orange jumpsuit.
Yeah, he's in an orange jumpsuit and he has like grease hair. And also my favorite part about him is his curse where he can't eat things.
That's like, the worst curse ever.
For a person that loves food, just no.
That would make me so upset. Like, I'm sure there are like worse actual curses, but as far as like long term, not being able to eat or drink would be the worst.
Like, my favorite part about this is like, this guy gets, like, really specific because he hasn't eaten so long. He's like, he looked at the empty goblet and said, root beer, bark, special stock, 1967. Like, he's, like, really specific. Is that supposed to be a joke, or is that, like, Rick Riordan's favorite version of root beer? Is, like, he just has, like, a gigantic like, stock of that stuff. Because it's, like, oddly specific.
It's really sad because, like, I mean, I guess Tantalus is a jerk, but just can't possibly eat the food even though he tries, and like Mr. D is sort of like, oh well, maybe it'll work this time, and of course it doesn't.
No, it's like the same as with the brisket. Like it like physically like comes alive and like runs off the plate and kills itself. Well, I mean, it's already dead, so you can't really kill itself, but it throws itself into the fire.
He picked up a fork and tried to stab a piece of brisket, but the plate skittered down the table and flew off the end straight into the coals of the brazier. Blast, Tantalus muttered.
Now, B, why do you think that's his curse? Because usually in a lot of Greek plays where someone has a curse or something in those lines, it usually is almost like a means to like their punishment or for what the thing they did. So if you look at an example, Medusa, she said she was more beautiful than Athena. Obviously, her curse would be that she becomes so ugly she turns things into stone.
Yeah, I guess he must have eaten something real bad. I think he might be a cannibal from what they've hinted at, because he said things about like how you all look good enough to eat, I think was his line. I also just finished rewatching Hannibal, so that might be coloring my view of this dude, but I have a feeling he ate a person. Yeah, I have some vibes that he maybe ate a person.
That is a good assumption, and we'll probably get there because we learned things. We didn't learn, how we got into the big house like this.
Mm-hmm. He's an ancient Greek Hannibal, basically. That's my running theory. I think we'll just like the implication that he's like, you look good enough to eat. Like, no one would make that kind of creepy murder pun unless they were a cannibal.
Unless they were like really creepy.
Yeah, unless they were planning to eat people. So, that's just my opinion. And it's hard to be like, oh, I guess maybe he hasn't eaten for so long that maybe he will eat people. Is that like the loophole he's looking for? Like, oh, it's not food, it's technically just people.
Like, it could be so much worse. Like, we're going to make this fun and hip for the kids. Hello, we're going to welcome your new activities director, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
I thought this was supposed to be about Greek mythology. Rick Riordan, I wanted to make this hip for the kiddies.
I really hope that he's not a cannibal, but I have a feeling he is, and it's going to be very creepy.
But would that face lie to you, B?
Definitely.
His really greasy face.
Yeah, his greasy face would absolutely lie to you. I mean, he's like a criminal.
But he's also like Dionysus's like yes man almost. Like he'll do whatever Dionysus says to
it's
do.
strange the dynamic that they have. And then there's like some sort of implication that like if he stays there longer working at Camp Half Blood, that'll be enough torture for him to be freed from his other torture of not eating. And I don't really understand if that's the way it works. But also, I don't think Camp Half Blood could ever be as torturous as not being able to eat or drink for thousands of years. But that's just my opinion.
I mean, the worst part is you'd have to hang out with children.
Yeah. Yeah, we should talk to the real counselors at Camp Half Blood and ask if it's enough torture for them.
I feel like what the problem is like, they're like, I cannot wait for winter. Like, that's my favorite time. Dionysus, probably that's his favorite time. That's when he goes like partying.
Well, Dionysus is a jerk. He doesn't like anybody. So he's kind of there as a punishment as well in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so like you get like a bunch of terrible people training the next generation of heroes. Yeah.
Yeah, that can't possibly go wrong. So we meet Tantalus. We learn that he's a jerk in many different ways. It's implied that he's probably a cannibal and did something horrible to be a criminal to begin with. Of course, he's also Cyclops racist, as many people are in this book.
Because this is apparently a thing now of just having everyone's racist.
Yeah, but the way that he talks about Tyson is complicated because he's sort of like, oh, well, he's probably like a bloodthirsty creature, but like, we might be able to use him somehow.
No, because the idea was like, back in the old days, we would like throw him in the woods and we'd have a merry hunt.
Yeah, which is also super creepy, like the most dangerous game. Like, oh, we're gonna throw him to the wolves, so to speak, and have everybody hunt him down.
Yeah, that would not end badly in any way, shape, or form. Just it's like a slasher movie. Tyson's just like picking them off one by one.
Yeah, I feel like Tyson would just kill all of them. He's like pretty strong, and he's like a baby Cyclops, I guess.
We've got messages from people saying, "Oh yeah, it's not really supposed to be racism, or is it just being mean to people who have like that are mentally handicapped?"
It's kind of complicated because it's also like it's genetically who he is, so it's a little bit of both to some extent. Like it's ableism and it's racism. It's like it's not really. I
kind of think it's more racism than I think it's ableism because it's like a lot less people make fun of him for like being mentally handicapped, but they make fun of him because he's got one eye and he's a Cyclops.
Yeah, exactly. That he's disabled. I mean, he gets made fun of for being deformed too, to some quote unquote deformed. Like the way that he looks and stuff. So it's like a complicated, it doesn't map perfectly onto like a human thing that we know because it's obviously fictional.
I mean, I guess this is also like a different world. I mean, I'm not trying to play devil's advocate, but it's like the idea of like, well, if you have a bunch of people that have been murdered by Cyclopses, it's kind of like the idea of why should we trust this one Cyclops when the rest of them have been murdering us?
Why should we trust this one monster? Well, the other monsters are just monsters and they're not like people and they don't understand reason. Well, here's Tyson and he's like actually gentle and kind.
Yeah, which is like it's a very rocky road, especially when you're writing like a kid's book. Like we understand like this is blatant, like they're making, or I guess Rick Riordan's trying to make a statement about racism.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's making a broader statement about bullying, I think, and prejudice in general. That you could just assume something about someone based on the way they look or the type of person they are or whatever.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways to like look at it. I don't really consider this like a subtle metaphor. I believe this is just like Rick Riordan wanted to hit this point really hard, like hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
So everybody, like if you look at the last couple of chapters,
everyone's a jerk.
Every chapter someone has been mean to Tyson and Tyson doesn't get it.
Yeah, that's another really sad thing is because he's so sweet and innocent. He doesn't really understand that he doesn't fit into this world. Yeah, it's a complicated thing, but it's like also very sad. So while they're like discussing his sort of fate, so to speak, and they're like, oh, maybe we'll put him in Hermes' cabin. And then Hermes, of course, they all get freaked out because they're like, oh, well, we can't fit this enormous Cyclops dude in our already completely packed cabin. And then something crazy happens, which is that above Tyson's head is a trident.
A gigantic fork!
Yeah, basically, a glowing green trident, the same symbol that appeared above me the day Poseidon had claimed me as his son. There was a moment of awed silence. Being claimed was a rare event. Some campers waited in vain for it their whole lives. When I'd been claimed by Poseidon last summer, everyone had reverently knelt, but now they followed Tantalus's lead, and Tantalus roared with laughter. Well, I think we know where to put the beast now. By the gods, I can see the family resemblance. Everybody laughed except Annabeth, and a few of my other friends. Tyson didn't seem to notice. He was too mystified, trying to swat the glowing trident that was now fading over his head. He was too innocent to understand.
Like, I can see, like, in my brain how this would look in, like, a movie setting and having, like, everyone's laughing at Tyson's, like, almost like a comedy show, like, trying to, like, swat the gigantic holographic Triton out of the sky.
Yeah, it's so sad. And then the description, again, this totally sums up Tyson. He was too innocent to understand how much they were making fun of him, how cruel people were. But I got it. I had a new cabin mate. I had a monster for a half-brother. It was so sad.
I mean, it's like one of those things where it's both sad, but it's also beautiful because Percy has, been friends with him for so long that he kind of already accepts him as a friend, and I would imagine a half-brother, or I would consider him like a brother.
Yeah, it's like this part like was actually really heart-wrenching for me to like imagine like they were just sort of all pointing and laughing and bullying him and how he didn't really understand why they were mocking him. It was... Yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that kids do. That is not, like, something that's fictional. Like, kids will do that. They will make fun of people. Like, that's not even, like, to the listeners. Like, there's been times where, even, like, elementary school where people would, like, point and laugh at people. Like, it's not, like...
Oh, yeah. I absolutely... I mean, even they pointed out, earlier in the chapter how Clarice has, like, a sort of the equivalent of, like, a kick-me sign on her back. Like, I think there's a lot of...
You moo, girl!
There's a lot of like grade school bullying going on, and it's this interesting dichotomy of like all of these kids have these powers because they're demigods, but they're still like developmentally the same as 12-year-olds, so they'd still have that.
12-year-olds. That's why.
Like, just because they have all this like magical power at their disposal, that doesn't necessarily give them the responsibility and the like emotional maturity to handle that kind of thing.
Which, I mean, is like a very delicate balance because it's like the idea of it's the Spider-Man thing. With great power comes great responsibility. If you give a kid like superpowers and they're like 12, they're going to abuse it no matter what. It's like giving a kid like 10 pounds of sugar and a super soaker. Some bad things are about to happen.
I think Rick Riordan is really trying to drive home the point that these are kids we're dealing with, and also they have lost their sort of structure because Chiron is leaving, so now like the person who runs the camp is just as like irresponsible as like a bunch of like children would be left to their own devices, so to speak. He's encouraging them to do dangerous things.
Oh, that's kind of weird. It's like the beginning of this book with Lord of the Flies. It's as if, symbolism. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
I didn't even think about the Lord of the Flies thing, but that's exactly
I haven't thought about that until right now. That makes so much sense. Oh my god, it's Lord of the Flies. Because, okay, think about it. The magical barrier is breaking. Oh my god, this is going to be like, let me just pull out my armchair and like my corn pipe for some weird reason in my like tweed jacket. Yeah. I'm going to take a puff real quick. Ooh, it's bubbles.
Blub, blub, blub.
Blub, blub, blub. Well, if you look at it, because I hate when people do this, when they armchair, like, I guess, English lecture. Well, if you think about it, the barrier is really civilization and, like, the idea of, like, civility. And now that it's waning, and their only guidance, Creon, is leaving, thus, these kids are now being left to their own devices by an idiot and a jerk.
Yeah, basically, a criminal and a different criminal.
Well, it's debatable if Dionysus is a criminal.
Yeah, but isn't he, like, cursed to not drink for some reason? I don't remember, actually, from the last book.
Yeah, it's prohibition. And also, would it be really awkward to have, like, hungover Dionysus at Camp Half-Blood?
Wow, it's, like, really falling into place once you mentioned the Lord of the Flies thing. It didn't even occur to me how much. I thought that they were trying to make some sort of statement about the bullies at Merryweather Academy, but I guess it's both. It's
I think we might have like hit something. Like this is almost like a clickbait episode. Like, is Sea of Monsters really Lord of the Flies in disguise? ?
I mean, it kind of is. Like it's all just like this whole book is very anti-bullying, I guess, and it's about like the cruelty of children.
I mean, and if you look at the first book, it's a lot about like anti-domestic abuse
Yeah.
and kind of like understanding people with disabilities.
Yeah, I definitely I see how that maps on really well, because I think Tyson as a new character presents a lot of opportunity to show how people can be bullied. I mean, and like adults do that to Tyson too. It's not just kids. So I mean, it's literally, he was too innocent to understand how much they were making fun of him, how cruel people were. Like, it's about generally the cruelty of humanity.
It's sad and unfortunate. So B, what's the name of the next chapter for next week?
The next chapter is chapter 6, Demon Pigeons Attack. I didn't read this chapter until just now.
So who do you think the demon pigeons are, and why did they attack?
Are they creatures? Are they like monsters that break through the barrier? Or is it like Tantalus intentionally trying to like train the campers into being fighters, so he like summons demon pigeons? I don't really know.
Okay, so basically what you've just told me is like in Harry Potter and Chamber of Secrets with the pixies.
Yeah, exactly. Demon pigeons is an interesting direction. I don't, also again, we always have to, do a double take with Rick Riordan where we're like, oh, are the demon pigeons literal, or is it like just pigeons that aren't necessarily actually demons? We don't know what's going to happen.
There's a lot of mystery and intrigue in this, and I'm really excited to read the next chapter with demon pigeon attack.
I'm really excited to see like how this arc goes with sort of like the lesson about bullying, because it just occurred to me that Rick was a grade school teacher. So it would make a lot of sense that he would have a lot of opinions about bullying and about the way people treat each other.
For me, when I look at authors, like sometimes they'll write things, kind of like write what you know. And I believe like wholeheartedly these are like how kids act, because Rick Riordan saw it for the like firsthand and how kids act.
Yeah, I think that's why he does such a good job of capturing the very specific way in which kids interact with each other, both positively and negatively, like how they bully each other, but also how they make friends.
Which I think makes perfect sense, because if I remember the story correctly, I believe the other reason why Rick Riordan wrote Percy Jackson is his first book series was called Tres Navarra, and it was totally not for kids, and kids wanted to do like book reports on Tres Navarra, and it's about like this drunken kung fu like detective in Texas who like fights like weird things, and like it's of the time, and like it was not safe for kids to read. And so that's like one of his alternatives was, I'm just going to write this book so kids can do book reports on Percy Jackson and not Tres Navarra.
Yeah, you can definitely see his influence as a grade school teacher. I think he approaches kids in a very realistic way, even though that they're magical.
It also translates well when it comes to like book sales, I would imagine, because when you imagine, my favorite thing in movies is like you have like a screenwriter. I just saw Slender Man movie and it was terrible. It's like how like a 50-year-old dude would write like a 14-year-old girl. Like this is how they speak. We're going to go to the library. Isn't that right? And then afterwards we're going to, go get a malt. Like stupid things like, let's go to the mall.
That's what kids do, right? They go to the mall. Hello, fellow kids.
You wouldn't imagine that it's like a 40-year-old dude like writing these books. It's like, this seems more realistic than like a person that try to be like hip with the kiddies.
He's done a lot of observational research, I think, into his characters, because all of the kids seem really genuine. And that makes the bullying seem all the more effective and upsetting.
I'm sure a lot of these characters are actually based off real kids.
Yeah.
That he knew.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
So B, did you get any messages this week?
So I got a message on Tumblr from Anonymous who said, "Hey B, 2 things regarding Radio Camp Half-Blood. I'd like to do some fan art for you guys, but I don't know what you look like beyond your current cover art. Could you describe your general traits?" This is a common theme. And number 2, have you considered a Ko-Fi account for the podcast? I can't join Patreon, but I'd still like to donate some moolah to the podcast. I should have probably forwarded this to you earlier, but I think that would be a good idea for us to have like other ways for people to contribute to the show if they don't want to do like a monthly sort of subscription, so to speak, if they could toss like a few dollars here and there to support the show.
But if you want to do like a one-time donation, we're going to now look into that, because that didn't even occur to me.
Yeah, it didn't occur to me either. I guess I didn't. I know a lot of people like on Twitter and stuff use Ko-Fi and stuff because it's, like a one-off, like, oh, I have an extra $5 here. I have an extra $10 to throw to my favorite podcast.
Yeah, no, the reason why we just use Patreon is because it's more of what most people use as well. And it's like one of those things where I guess I trust it more. It's more of an established website.
Yeah. It's also like has the infrastructure to be like perk based, so that way we can set up like donation levels and everything, which I like to be able to do that.
But that's a really good question. I guess do you want to just, would it be funnier if we try to describe each other, or do you want to describe yourself?
I mean, I'm sure that there is my Twitter profile picture that kind of looks like me.
But it'd be really funny to like, what characteristics do they want to emphasize?
Yeah. God, I don't even know how I would describe what you look like. Because you just look like Zach.
I'll try. I'll do you first, and then you do me.
Okay. What do I look like? A hobbit?
So I feel like for you, you have like a little button nose, and you're also very pale. So make sure to make them like,
I'm very pale.
like white. Like just don't even like color the face. Just
Don't even color in the face.
don't even color the face. And I mean this in the nice way possible, B. So when you come to me, you can be as brutal as possible. But
yeah, no, I'm quite pale.
black short hair, right? It's black, right?
It's dark brown, but close enough.
Yes, it's dark brown or black, depending on what you want to put. And then B usually likes to rock aviators or just sunglasses.
Yeah, well, all my pictures have sunglasses because my eyes are very sensitive to the light because they're blue.
Okay, so yeah, blue eyes. So maybe those don't like bleed through the aviators, but also the most important thing, make sure to get this correct in the fan art. B always wears bow ties.
Well, not always. Only on special occasions.
B always wears bow ties for special occasions, but this is a special occasion. This is fan art, so this is a special occasion. So give them an adorable bow tie.
A whimsical bow tie, yeah, with polka dots or stripes or some cute little pattern on there.
Now it's your turn to describe me.
Yeah. Okay, so, Zach is much less pale than I am. He's like a medium beige brown tan. It sort of depends, I guess.
Well done, I would like to call it. Like I'm half brown, half white.
Yeah, you're sort of a medium mocha latte color. I don't know. A caramel latte color.
It comes from my Spanish descent.
Yeah. And you have really pretty short hair, actually, if I remember correctly. Like,
yeah,
it's
usually
pretty...
for me, I used to rock a mohawk, but most of my hair is just short because my hair gets really itchy, so it's just easier to just have like either a shaved head.
Yeah, you got pretty short hair, and your eyebrows are pretty thick, I feel like. They're like more, especially because your hair is shaved, it's kind of like a prominent feature. And you have glasses and brown eyes? Yeah, you have brown eyes, I think. And I don't know how else to describe you. That's kind of it. You wear a lot of nerdy t-shirts. It's kind of your go-to.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
Obviously. I mean, I'm just a gigantic walking nerd contradiction of myself. I can have like fictional like debates with myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like my mind's eye picture of you is always in that one Labyrinth David Bowie t-shirt that you have. That's like my image of you in my head.
So I may or may not be wearing that shirt
You're
right
wearing
now.
it right now. I love that I'm so spot on about that.
It's my lounge shirt, B, because you can't, if you want to lounge out, you gotta lounge out with Jareth.
Yeah, I like how I've never even met you in person, but I guessed what shirt you were wearing. Anyway. So that's generally what Zach looks like.
So thank you so much for that email. We'll send you more information. Just email the show, radiocamphalfblood@gmail.com, and then we can try to either set up a donation link through PayPal, or we'll do that other service.
Yeah, we'll look at something. But I think that's a good idea for like one-off donations and stuff.
So I got one from Titan 51511.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are amazing. I can't believe that anyone can be as amazing as you. So when I found your podcast on Book 1, Chapter 3, I just went crazy because I went through some tough times when I started my new school, and when I read Percy Jackson, it helped me get through everything that had happened. And I have ADHD, and I've never felt more attached to anything like I've gotten attached to Percy Jackson. I read through every book, and I feel that you could also start a podcast by saying, "Hi, I'm B, and I'm Z," because it's an opportunity that have been there the entire time. I started listening to these with my girlfriend, and she can't get enough. Thank you so much, and keep staying immortal. Also, Zach, where's my damn sandwich? Damn spelled D-A-M. Well, I mean, okay, Titan, if we're going to talk about sandwich specifics, like, you gotta, like, email me, what do you want? Like, do you want, like, a nice, like, brioche bread, a baguette? Like, we have to do this like a Subway thing. Like, you gotta
don't
tell
make me
me, like,
hungry.
the bread, the meat, the fixins. Do you want it toasted? Do you not want it toasted? Do you have any food allergies? I don't want to go to jail for accidental manslaughter because I gave you, like, pickles or something. So just email me, tell me what type of sandwich you want, and I'll put it in the mail or something. Also, if you don't like it, you can't give it back because California state laws, once it's left my house, it is legally, I cannot serve it to anyone else, including myself.
Okay, so here's another message. I think it's from the email. Yeah. Hey guys, it's Logan again. I know, annoying, right? It's not annoying. I just caught up on your podcast, and I have a few things to say. First of all, I hope that you realize how much you have done for this, the Percy Jackson, community. I've been going through a tough time lately with my high school, but every single time I listen to your podcast, it lifts my spirits. Aw. Second of all, I hope that you continue to enjoy the books and read the Heroes of Olympus series as well. If anyone hasn't answered this question already, if a demigod were to give a blood transfusion, nothing would happen. The DNA from their godly parent doesn't show up, so the godly DNA isn't in their bloodstream, meaning that the mortal would be fine as long as it was the same blood type. Wow, I didn't know that we hadn't answered that. And finally, I went for a run this week, and I saw a sign that I think that you will find funny when you read The Titan's Curse. I'm still going to include it, though. With love and awkwardness, Logan. They, them, probably, please. P.S. I'm so sorry that this is so long. You don't have to apologize. It wasn't that long.
Yeah, you don't have to apologize if it's long. We love reading long emails, especially from loyal listeners. It's like it brings like a nice warmth to my heart when both of these emails that we got is like we help people through like a hard time. I think that's kind of the goal of the show is we are very lighthearted, and our whole goal for the show is to make people, like, if you guys are ever feeling like alone or something, like, you put on our show and just join in like a good conversation with friends.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, that's how I experience podcasts as well, just sort of stuff that lifts my spirits and hearing people talk about stuff that they care about. So I'm glad that we provide that for you every week. I don't really get the picture because I didn't read The Titan's Curse.
But what is it?
It's just a picture of a sign that says, "Warning, dam wall closed to walking."
You said damn.
The one without the N at the end. It's not a bad word. It's fine. It's the one that beavers make. I'm sure that that's funny if I've read that book. Is it funny, Zach? I trust you.
It's funny to me. I'm laughing on the inside.
You're laughing on the inside. Okay.
We got one iTunes review, and this one's actually from South Africa.
Wow.
So the iTunes account name is Damn Podcast. Damn spelled D-A-M. We have like a trend now of people sending damn memes.
Watch your language, or we're gonna get a...
All of those say D-A-M.
Yeah.
Maybe one might not. I don't know. I haven't decided yet.
I haven't decided. We're gonna get that explicit tag on iTunes.
Oh, hamburgers. Explicit tag is now put there. Honestly, best podcast ever. I have listened to every podcast and have never found a single bad episode, because you are the best. Me and my girlfriend listen to all the podcasts whenever we get the chance. We love it, and also, how about to start a podcast with Hi, I'm B, and I'm Z.
Wait, is this the same person?
This is Titan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we could do that. You want to test it out right now, B?
Well, I'm already B. I already say that. Hi, I'm B.
And I'm Z.
From B to Z, we skipped the A. We're getting right into it.
You know the funny thing is, I'm not going to say my sister's name, but my sister, her first name starts with an A.
A to Z. That's your whole family.
Thank you so much for that wonderful iTunes review. We really appreciate it. It's really crazy that we have people from South Africa that listen to our show.
Yeah, I've never even been on the continent of Africa before.
But yeah, no, we really appreciate it. It's amazing that we have a lot of listeners from around the world, like places that hopefully we'll be able to visit when we do our super mega live tour that will be hopefully announced in the year 2030.
Yeah. Was that all of our reviews?
Yeah, that was the only review for this week.
Yeah, I'm always like really amazed when we get reviews from places that I've never even gotten close to going to. You know what I mean? I've only been to like a few places around the world.
It's almost like bizarre just imagining that you'll go to like, let's say, we go to South Africa and there's people that have listened to us.
And someone knows us. That's so weird, right? Like, I've been to Canada, Jamaica, England, and France.
I've gone to Canada, Mexico, most of Mexico. I want to say Puerto Rico, but I can't remember.
You can't remember if you've been to Puerto Rico? How do you not remember?
I was probably like 2 or 3.
Oh, okay, I see.
Thank you so much for listening to this wonderful episode. We really appreciate all the emails and the iTunes reviews that we get. Like, all you guys are amazing. And we really appreciated every email and every review. Like, it just is a way for us to connect to you guys on a much deeper level, and we appreciate it. So please keep sending those emails, please. So B, where can they find you?
You can find me on Tumblr at twinpoetry.tumblr.com, and you can find me on Twitter at bkellygorman.
If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at halfblood_radio. If you want to follow me personally on Twitter, you can follow me at Suda41, SUDA41. If you want to email our show and send us more Iris messages, you can email us at radiocamphalfblood@gmail.com. Or if you want to follow our Twitter, that's at halfblood_radio. We really appreciate it. If you send us any messages or even tweet at us, we'd read them on the show. We read everything on the show. If you want to donate to our Patreon, just find us on Patreon. Just type in Radio Camp Half-Blood. We're the first people to come up. You can also find our t-shirts on TeePublic. Just look under Radio Camp Half-Blood. We have just our main logo shirt, but we're looking for more designs. We're actually going to be putting the We Love Our Pets shirts on soon. What would we call it? Like Rockin' Rosie and Party Pfeffernuss?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Are you going for the silent P, or do you want to put an F in there?
Pepper News.
Oh, and also you can follow my hedgehog on Instagram if you want. Pfeffernuss the Hedgehog on Instagram.
And Rosie, do you have an Instagram? No, she's too cool for Instagram? Okay.
She's too cool for Instagram. Yeah, it's really hard for her to type with the pause.
She got 1 million bajillion followers if she like put herself on there. She doesn't want the exposure, she's telling me right now.
She doesn't want the exposure. Yeah, she doesn't like the paparazzi to bother her.
The paparazzi?
The paparazzi. Okay, I think it's time for us to go. I'm B.
And I'm Z. And keep staying mortal. Bye.
Bye, guys.